good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chris.
Welcome back to the museum. I see a lot of familiar faces again. I guess this is the second from last lecture in our winter 2017 lecture series. We have one more next week. For those of you coming back next weekend, you get to listen to me. I'll be talking about the Detroit Ordnance District in the First World War, and this will be in conjunction with the opening of our new exhibit in the back on Michigan in World War I. So come on back next Saturday or next Sunday or both days for that exhibit and that lecture. And then we have some of our summer events are out on the table. Please feel free to pick up the flyers and take a look at what we got coming up in the summer. So I guess without any further delay, I will turn you over to Sgt Stephanie Shannon, author of Battling the Storm Within, founder and CEO of the Michigan Women Veterans Empowerment. And she will be saying "A Victim No More, From Trauma to Triumph, a story of struggle, healing, and restoration." So, Sgt. Shannon.
I'd like to thank you all for coming out today. What a beautiful day it is. Finally, the spring. I'm excited about that. I'm just excited to be here. I've never been here, the facility, so after I speak, I'm going to go out and just kind of explore the military history. And one thing, as veterans, we often remember, well, as a woman veterans, I tell them it's important that we share our stories because we are actually history. It doesn't matter if you retired from the military or if you served in combat or not, you served, and that's enough, and that makes you valid. I'm Sgt. Stephanie Shannon. I'm the founder and CEO of Michigan Women Veterans Empowerment. We are a nonprofit 501c3 faith-based organization that empowers women veterans in the 8 dimensions of wellness. We believe in tailor-making our programs to women veterans because we find that most programs are catered to the male veteran perspective. And so I can kind of tell you, I'm going to share with you my history and share with you what my experience was. I'm also the author of Battling the Storm Within. This book is about what I experienced living 20 years undiagnosed with PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder, caused by MST, which is military sexual trauma, and the Gulf War illness. This book was released in 2014. It took me about 3 years to write. Very difficult to write because there were some issues I had that I didn't deal with because of the trauma I experienced in the military, and it carried over into my civilian life. And this is my second book, and I'll speak about this too. I just released this last year in 2016. It's an anthology book project. Includes 9 other women veteran stories. So I have sister veterans that are you videotaping me first? You should. Not live, but just right here. I have women veterans that I've met in my journey, sharing my story, that are very intrigued by sharing their stories. So I provide a platform for their voices to be heard, honored, and respected. So we're working on our second volume, but that's why I'm here, because I feel I finally found out my voice matters. A victim no more, and I kind of say what I say there is a lot of times people think of a victim, they think of a person that was taken advantage of or experienced something that they didn't ask for. And a lot of times people stay in that state of toxicity where a victim, you get in a victim mentality, woe is me, oh, this happened to me. Well, I decided to shift that in my life. Instead of becoming a statistic and complaining about my life, I believe it's best that we take control over it. And the things that we are in control of is our choices. So I decided to join the military. Why did I do that? I am originally from Grand Rapids, Michigan, native. I went to Grand Rapids Christian schools, graduated from Grand Valley State University. So I'm on the west side of the state. And I basically pursued my education, and I worked as a social worker for 15 years. So my experience thinking of the military at the time, that was 1990, I'm 48 years old now. But when you would see the commercials, be all you can be, and they had this exciting commercials, you can travel the world and you can do all this fun. I'm like, wow, Uncle Santa's tab too, cool, you know? So you think of all this great stuff they can experience, and a lot of times you think of women, you're thinking, oh, they have a lot of women in it now, it's gotta be some equality here. Oh, we're gonna have opportunities, some jobs, you know? So I always had this really, I would say, naive perspective. And I joined basically to further my career I went to school in psychology, got a degree in that, and just went to social work, but I wanted to just travel and see the world. I joined the military in 1989. At the time, the last war we had was Vietnam War, so I had no idea that I was actually deactivated. I had this drill sergeant, when I was in training, I called him Freddy Krueger. He was like, this guy was a character. I mean, I've never seen anything like that. Anybody that's military, do we have any veterans in the audience today? Thank you for your service. Give our fellow veterans a hand. You know what I mean. You don't get to choose your drill sergeant. You don't get to choose your career. Very unique individuals. And he used to tell me all the time, you guys are out here shucking and driving. When are you going to end up overseas in a war? And I was like, it's no war, it's the 70s, it's the 80s, everything is fine, peace, love, happiness. Whoa, what did I think? I joined the military, and in my mindset, I first went to the Air Force, and I had this recruiter that was not telling me all my options. They have all these jobs, but I'm trying to figure out career-wise, and I was like, well, I scored high enough to do it just about any aptitude, but I didn't want to be stuck in one other place. When I thought military, army, I traveled the world. So I decided to become an 88 light truck driver, transportation specialist. And I figured if I was in a transportation unit, I was going to be transported around and being busy and not stuck in the office. I didn't want to be a paper pusher or just administrator. So I joined the unit, and we were in Muskegon at the time. And I went to basic and AIT in Fort Dix, New Jersey, which is now closed. And shortly after that, 5 months later, my unit was activated. So I was sent to an Army Reserve unit, and they were like, we're going to war. I'm like, what? Are you serious? So at this time, I just finished my associate's degree at community college, and I was thinking to myself, oh my God, what am I gonna do? I said, well, I don't have any kids, I'm not married. Hey, I didn't really fear my life. I'm not that type of person. I was always athletic and kind of a risk taker, so I wasn't afraid of going anywhere overseas. I felt like whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And so I felt like we can do this. So I joined this unit, and all we had was 5 women. It was a culture shock to me. I knew the military was male-dominated, but I really didn't know what I got into. I was 125 pounds, 5'3", and I'm driving a 14-ton tractor trailer. I'm a trucker. I'm driving, hauling Patriots, ammo, missiles. I mean, dirty jobs, I'm like, oh my God, this is so hard. It was the hardest, I would say, physical job. I never thought it would be that strenuous. I thought it would be something I could manage. Military, basically, and as most our veterans know, you're not in charge of anything. You do what they say, you show up, you follow the rules. It's not like you get to discuss your work hours. It was a very long, hard job, at all. I know how to sleep standing up. I know how to sleep in a truck in 110-degree weather, in cold weather, when I'm crossing, pup tents, all of that, sleeping on the dirt, no pillow, no cot, you need the comforts of everything. And the culture shock was for me, because I was in fashion merchandising. They took all my girl stuff. My hair, my jewelry, my makeup was gone, and it was like, oh my God, I'm losing myself. So I found myself being stripped from the civilian world to the structure where you don't really have a lot of information. We have Google now, we have the internet, you can find just about anything, but back then you only can find out what your recruiters tell you, and that's it. So I was thinking, I would go over there and serve and whatnot and be a part of my company, and I really was surprised, because the statement here is, I remember being too young to be afraid and too immature to realize the gravity of the situation. When you're young, you think you're invisible. You think, oh well, what could possibly happen to me? But I didn't realize it was that serious, that I was actually going to be activated and then go over to another country and serve in a country where women are third-class citizens. We basically disturbed their whole culture. We had the women could thrive. Women can't talk to men. You have to wear, everybody knows about the Muslim culture. So it was really shocking to be put away or tucked away as not valuable. I can remember the times when I was over there, before the war, our unit was activated, and we got time to go into the cities, to visit, but you couldn't go by yourself, and so you always have to have a male escort. You had to have your arms covered, this is 110-degree weather, and we're walking out, we go to the PX and whatnot. I've got some time at the mall, and I was really trying to understand, what is this going on? And we were not privy to the information. I was a PFC at that time, so, you know, I'm just a peon. You know, we do all the work, all that listed. Yep, you know, had no power, no nothing, so, you know, you basically got the orders down. So as we were working over there and serving, we served at, we were stationed at Dammam Port in Saudi Arabia, and our unit was attached to the docks because we ran on flatbeds on it, and they would, and the ships would sit in and they would unload the Arabs and Patriots at a pit stop. I mean, it was, I've never seen anything like that before, where you would drive up and get your, you know, your flatbed loaded up, and then you would, you know, carry out the duties. But I didn't know that I would be sitting for 3 to 4 or 5 days in a truck with no bathrooms, no showers. I mean, we washed our clothes by hand. You talking about old school. No luxury, none of that. I mean, totally stripped from that culture. And then you would be exposed to the Muslim culture where they would pray 5 times a day. The whole country was shut down. I mean, the malls, everybody out. And I was like, whoa, this is just shocking. I mean, it's a total culture shock. But what they didn't do was prepare me for the unknown. That's one thing about serving. That's one thing a lot of people don't realize. You take a risk. When you say you're going to serve, you swear and you say, I vow to do this. You're putting yourself in situations of harm's way. The worst thing people think, when you're afraid to die, I'm like, well, how would I know? You did, you know. I think the thing was more or less, I'm staying in a situation where I don't know when I'm ever going to come home. You know, they'll tell you one thing and then we change, you call it 22. Because 1 minute, 5 minutes later, they told you to stand here and do this, and then 3 minutes later, you're supposed to be over there, and then half an hour later, you're supposed to be there. So you're basically adjusting to this lifestyle. And our unit, we were attached, we had other units from Germany. What I can say I experienced, I really liked it over there. We experienced the United Nations. I saw people from Britain, Africa, Spain. It was powerful. You know, when we were on the roads, we would pass each other, kind of wave at each other on flags. So really, I felt that unity, United Nations, I would say, kept collaboration, the power over there. And while I was over there serving in the military, at the time, I didn't know that I had rights. Because when you join, you kind of feel like you give it all up because you really don't have the voice. You can't say what you want to say. You can, but believe me, there's consequences to what you say and do. And at the time, I didn't realize that I was being exposed to what they call, it's a couple environments we had. And I call it a hostile environment. To explain more like military sexual trauma, what MST is, military sexual trauma is unwanted, unsolicited sexual advances. It could be sexual harassment, catcalling, inappropriate touching, you know, the little things, doing special favors to get off duty or whatnot. And at the time I was experiencing these things, and I served in a time where I didn't quite understand the significance of that. I was standing up for myself. I was seeing injustices, things were done wrongfully, but there were no place to report it. Even though our unit, as we traveled, we had MPs, and people are like, well, why didn't you tell an MP? I'm like, you kidding me? You don't tell them your commander. Nobody likes a brat. You don't tell them your fellow brother and sister. You just, when you think about it, how bad is it? So if you're thinking about an environment where I was exposed to 1 in 3 women, the stats on the MST is 1 in 3 women are sexually assaulted, and 38 men are sexually assaulted every day in the military. And you wouldn't know that at all. And the reason why it's more visible now is because of the media and social media. So I experienced what I call a visible wound. Often it's called a moral injury. Moral injury is like, a lot of people don't realize when you join the military, you're put into a position to do something where you normally wouldn't do. I had met several veterans where they were like put in positions where they actually had to kill civilians or children and situations like that, and they carried that guilt. Even though you carried your vow to serve and protect, your personal moral injury is something you probably would have never done on your own, but you were put into that situation. So I didn't know that I had a moral injury abuse. I had a lot of boundaries being crossed. And at the time, I rationed it out and I said, well, this is just how guys act. And more, this is just how it is. What can you do? It's a hostile living environment. Everybody's under stress. We had the threat of Patriots, animals, missiles. We had that, Scud missile alerts, chemical warfare. We had all those pressures too coming up on us. So basically, you had to follow orders and be in place. So you just kind of took it because you just wanted to make it through and make it home. You didn't know exactly what was going to happen. And I do recall, when I was serving over there, several things happened. This is the first woman POW was taken captive. She was transportation. There was another female that was shot. She was taken. She was the second one. They also had, we had exposure to toxics, poisons, and chemicals, depleted uranium, oil fires, all this stuff was going on, and that's where the Gulf War illness come from, so I speak about that. The Gulf War illness affects over 700,000 that were activated over there. 250,000 of us has been exposed to all these chemicals in our body. We were shot up with the anthrax vaccine, the PBT pills. We had a lot of chemicals that basically, invaded our systems. And at the time, we didn't know that our DNA was changed. The myosheath on our cells were actually destroyed. I recall those days because I used to be really sick. I remember they used to force, it was mandated to have white PBT pills. I think I got that here. The white PBT pills were ordered, but we found out years later they were expired. We were ordered to take them to prevent, in case of toxins and poisons, like immune our system. I'm like, well, why are we taking these if there is no threat here? So it was a lot of things that happened at the time. If you guys know MOP level 4, know about that, the whole chemical warfare. Oh my goodness. If it was a siren would go off and there were alerts of gas attacks, you would have to put on your gas mask. This is with your regular uniform on, and this is another level of clothes on. The pants, the jacket, the gloves, plastic gloves, the boots, and your gas mask. And I remember the times when we had toxics and poisons, sirens going off. But the thing about it, you use that, you're supposed to use that equipment once, throw it away and get another one. I only have one uniform, one MOP level 4 equipment the whole time. We didn't know that, so we basically were exposed, and most of us, I had a lot of friends, a lot of people sick, different things. You showed up at the theater, diarrhea, probably skin problems, sleep disorders. So many things surfaced up, but at the time, all we had was a tent. That was our medical unit. And, going to sick call is not the thing you do because a lot of things, you just trying to share them and get out of duty. No, I'm really sick. So one thing about being in the military is kind of this image of being tough all the time, picking yourself up by bootstraps, you got this, and not really catering to that human side. And I think that's what needs to change, and that's what I advocate for, is that some of the things that were in place now that we really need some preventative things. I think if you're exposed and you see a trauma, a death, or something, a tragic incident, you should have immediate access to counseling or therapy right there, not when you get home or when the symptoms show. I remember one night a stun missile went off, and it was a unit from Pennsylvania that had came, and it really shocked me was the way they responded. The alarms went off, and we had to build our own bunkers. So we actually had to do our own sandbags, build our own bunkers. We went underground that night, and I remember we came back and we found out the unit was hit by a Scud missile, and actually 98 people were killed. And they didn't talk to us about it. This is about a mile away from us. So we just went on like nothing the next day, and that's the difficult thing I had was where we were trying to relate to what happened and what's going on. We never were privy to that. So I think that's something that does need to change, is that while we have people that are serving that help the servants, help the troops at that time. I think my PTSD, if I would have had intervention sooner, when I asked out for it, it would have been different. I got back home, and I came back to Grand Rapids, and I just re-enrolled in school, Grand Valley, and I just went back to what I thought was normal. I didn't talk about my military experience. I didn't tell anybody because it was such like a movie. If you watch, the only movie they have out of female veterans was G.I. Jane, and then they have, more guy movies and action, but really it's like, I couldn't even process my trauma. And the people that I was with couldn't process theirs either, so we couldn't help each other. When everybody got back to the States, everybody just separated, isolated. There was no camaraderie, there was no brotherhood, sisterhood. There was a real big disconnect. So what do you go back to? So I just went back and I went to school, but at the time I noticed I was different. I looked at everybody different. I didn't look at the world as safe anymore. But just imagine, usually children are the most innocent thing. But over there, they trained you, they could actually have a bomb on. We had kids wanting to come up and get water jugs, and we wanted to give it. It's like, no. So really getting programmed to looking at every black person that you meet as a possible enemy, that's a lot to process. So I think that's a lot of the fear that I had in my work when I got back home. I had a lot of internal work, but one thing about it, we can't diagnose ourselves. So when I went to school, in psychology, I spent a lot of time trying to figure me out. So I was studying all these theologies and all these, and I was trying to figure myself out because I knew something happened, but I wasn't sure what that was. I was different. And I was disconnected from my family. I was estranged from my family. I would say, it took me about 6 years before I even talked about it. I would never tell anybody I was a veteran. There's 47,000 women veterans in Michigan who make up 1% of the nation's population, women veterans do. So there's not a lot of us. So there wasn't a place for us to go and connect. And so I really had a difficult time adjusting. I would have ideas of thoughts of depression, anxiety, triggers. I would have these memories and these night sweats I would wake up in, but who do you tell that to? And at the time, it's more common now where people talk about mental health issues and whatnot, but back then, you don't admit you're depressed. You don't admit, anything like that. You gotta have it together. You gotta be tough. You gotta keep moving forward. And that was my coping mechanism. I basically was avoidance. I was a workaholic. I worked as a social worker, and then I started a nonprofit organization for youth, and I worked my time and served in the church and the community. I kept helping others, but I didn't help myself. And I say that for women in general, that we're always the nurturers, the givers, taking care of everybody else, and everybody else straight, we're sitting there fried. And I learned that really it's not selfish, it's self-preservation, that you really have to take care of yourself. But when I went for help, when I went to the VA, I told them what I experienced. They told me I had adjustment disorder. Really? Are you kidding? Help me adjust. I'm trying to communicate bits and pieces, and I call it like a Picasso. Parts, stories I can't remember, a lot of stuff I blocked out, a lot of stuff I didn't validate, so I was trying to figure it all out. That's all they told me, but they didn't refer me to see a psychiatrist, psychologist, mental health counseling. And when I told them about the sexual assault and all the things I experienced, they belittled it. Hey, we got guys walking around here with no limbs and in wheelchairs, and you're complaining about something that happened 20 years ago, so it was always like, oh, get over it. As we know, sexual assault, the violation of anybody's personal boundaries affects them. And then you don't expect it from an organization where they said they're going to protect you. As you serve, we're going to take care of you. That was the promise. And that's what I was looking for, was help when I needed it. So I lived years not even knowing I had PTSD, but I know I was different. So I hid it, I tucked it down, I wouldn't give it. And I really came to a place of isolation of who cared. Because when I did tell people, I would get these weird responses like, no. It was always a disconnect and like, ooh, and I felt this really weird person. I'm like, what am I talking another language nobody understands? I'm trying to communicate what I'm being through. I'm trying to understand it. So I had this frustration of people accepting me or understanding me. So I struggled for many years. I avoided it, and I actually ended up going to a private. I didn't trust the VA. After I came to you before, you told me what I had, but you didn't help me. So I took my own insurance and I got a private psychiatrist, and I started sharing with her the experiences. But it was still a disconnect because they didn't really validate when my doctor said they didn't support, what she said was the situation. If I was not in the VA system, it wasn't, I would say, I had a very difficult time with that. So I didn't end up really disclosing too much to the VA. I felt all these feelings, stress, isolation, irritability, rage, all this stuff tucked in me, all because I experienced something in Saudi Arabia, and I'm not quite sure how to make it all together, but I'm here now about how I move forward. And I think that's what I advocate a lot of veterans is that reaching out for help is not a sign of weakness, but actually strength. When you can be vulnerable enough, but actually you have to create an environment where a person feels safe. Well, if I disclose it to you, are you going to belittle it, going to mock me, or you're going to write me up and say, red flag my file, or what? What are you thinking about me? So I was always paranoid with that. But those times that I went through like that, what actually happened was my faith in God. I knew that if God allowed that to happen to me, that he had a plan for that. I knew that all the stuff that I experienced in the military had to have purpose because I'm still here and I'm still productive, but I was not healthy. I was toxic. I was disconnected. I wanted my life back. I wanted my voice back. I wanted my place in society. When I did go to veteran service organizations, they were male dominated. There was no girls there. And then after experiencing sexual trauma, when you're around the guys, they kind of remind you of the guys that did it. You got these barriers here. So there was no place for female veterans where I felt accepted. So I ended up actually becoming a homeless veteran. I worked for the state of Michigan. My last job was out in Oakland County, and I was a child welfare worker where I helped abuse and neglect boards of the state. Very hard job. You talking about burn now? I thought the military was something. That was a whole other world. Dealing with the court system, trying to reunify families, children are abused. I really felt like I took that position because I felt like I felt powerful, I felt needed, but really I needed the same help they needed. I needed the same therapy too. And what happened, my doctor, she took me out of stress leave. She said, you can no longer be working anymore. You've got to deal with this. I was like, I can't. I have a son. And at this time, I'm a mother, I'm divorced, and I'm raising my sons. I have to work. I have to take care of them. Who's going to take care of them? So she took me off in stress leave, and I never came back. That was 2008. And that was the best thing that happened to me. I lost everything I had. I was living in Auburn Hills, had condos, a nice land, and all that kind of stuff. But what can you do? You don't have the money. After your long-term disability runs out, your unemployment runs out, you're not capable of getting back in the same line of work to work. What do? So I ended up going back to the VA, swallowed my pride, and said, okay, this is what we're going to do now. I'm going to be in control here. Okay? I'm going to come back to the VA, but you guys are not going to treat me like before. So I first went to the Detroit VA. Why did I do that? I went to the Detroit VA and I didn't feel honored as a woman veteran. They used to tell me that I had too much education and I articulate too well, there's nothing wrong with me. I said, okay, if I stand on this table and yell at everybody and then you believe me, I said, so I gotta act crazy in order for you to say I'm crazy, and it was like this battle of trying to prove myself, trying to find validation, somebody to accept me, please understand me, and I kept getting this, so long ago, you're just this and that. So I ended up leaving that system because I didn't feel heard. I didn't feel like they really heard me and respected and just give me what I needed. I transferred to the Ann Arbor VA. It was night and day. Night and day. I love the Ann Arbor VA. The administrators, they listen to you, you write a letter, you speak up, they respond to you. And I think that's what it is with veterans. We want just respect, common respect. If I'm coming to ask you for help, assess me. Don't withhold my benefits. Don't misdiagnose me. I'm sitting here waiting, I'm suicidal, I'm calling the 1-800 number, and you got me on hold, and that's my regular counseling, I'm waiting 3 months to get in. I need a counselor, so I'm really to this place where I'm like, I don't get this. That's why we look at the statistics, 22 veterans commit suicide every day. Women veterans, we commit suicide 12 times more than our civilian counterparts. Why is that? Why is the suicide rate so bad? Because of the disconnect, the lack of immediate services. When you're ready, you're ready. I don't want to wait. I can't wait another 12 weeks. There needs to be something now. So that's the frustration I have and what I advocate for. I do speak at the VA. I work with the sexual assault coordinator. I've been at the patient safety panel. And I really just tell them the point is veterans want to be heard. And we want to be respected. And we want our voices, the services provided. That's it. We're not asking for a handout. We're not people that sit around and wait for a monthly check. We joined the military. We're kind of a little different, Not the average person will go and sign up and swear and risk their life for the country. So we're not lazy, slacking people. We're just people that may have been traumatized, and because you're not in this situation, you can listen to a veteran all day long and be empathetic, but it's not the same as putting those boots on and going through that training and living in that environment. So I ended up being placed in the homeless veteran program at Ann Arbor VA, and that's when they gave me a HUD-VASH voucher. HUD-VASH voucher is kind of like a Section 8 voucher where they go by your income and they'll attach it to an apartment. So we were able to get an apartment in Grand Lake, and that's when I really started to heal. I didn't have a car, I lost my car, everything. And so they had transportation service, and they used to transport me back, and I invested in counseling. I started going to group therapy, and I invested in what they call prolonged exposure therapy. And that was the toughest therapy because you had to face your trauma. You had to face that monster. I felt like this is a monster or something was chasing me. And then when I finally turned around and faced it, I figured and realized, wow, this is really not as great as I thought it was. So I became this powerful person and realizing that the power I needed was just someone to support me, get me connected, but I had to do the work. And that's one thing about it, I was ready to do the work. I was in that program for like 2 years, and it changed my life. My advocate and my social worker her name is Liz Steph, and I love her today. I still work with her in the community. She's great. I mean, she's a champion. She's like a pit bull. I mean, something else, she would lock in on it and she would get it done. And if I needed something, she would make sure that it was done. I mean, that's all I needed was one person that would support me and just help me along the way. And my goals were accomplished. So 2 years on that program, I told her, so as you go, I said, I want to write my book. So through my therapy, I started journaling and writing my book. I encourage writing because it helps you express yourself in a safe place. You don't have to share with anybody if you want to. And that's what I started doing. And after that program established and I released my book, I really did it for myself because I wanted to try to make some sense out of all of this. I was like, how did my life get like this? So I finally found out my voice was important, that I did no longer want to remain silent anymore. I did no longer want to be in hiding. I didn't even care what people thought. I tell them now, you know it all, you can't blackmail me. You know, I'm telling you all about me in order for me to live free and be able to find out what it was that I lost. And I felt like a part of me was taken and I was trying to figure out what that was that they took. And I needed to find that back. So as I started advocating and getting out and speaking, and I've been somewhere everywhere, I was just featured on Comcast newsmakers. And also Fox 2 News and whatnot. These things I don't even solicit to. You know, I wasn't doing this to be the next Oprah at all. I was just trying to share my story and help everyone else. It wasn't even that type of thing. It was me wanting to bring peace to myself. And also just for my son, help him understand his mom. I was like, okay, it makes sense now. Let me help you understand what happened to me. And I talk about that thoroughly, how parenting with wounds and how having mental health issues affects your parenting, how it affects your children. You know, you don't even realize it. And so after I worked on myself, figured my triggers out, and kind of take the piece of myself, I was able to speak clear. And at the time, I was just like good with that. But as I started coming out, and I'm hearing from male and female veterans of their sexual assaults. I had a guy tell me about how he was raped by 10 guys. They did anything, you know. I mean, it wasn't just women. And they were just isolated. Everybody's hiding this experience, and it's like so toxic and unhealthy. And I was like, wow, this is huge. This is bigger than what I thought. So that's why I started Mission Women Veterans Empowerment. Because I felt I'm only one person, we got to do more. So as I started advocating and speaking, I found out that my strength, my inner strength became my power now. And I continue to be a work in progress. I tell people I have not arrived. I consider myself just like anyone else, owning my stuff, what's mine, what's not mine, and I'm just growing. And I think the truth is this, is that when you look at yourself, and you look at what happened, you're able to separate the two. I was angry at the military. I was angry at, you know, just felt like, how could this happen? I came here, I did exactly what you asked me to do, and I ended up broken. You know, I had all those issues. I was angry, unforgiving, I was bitter. You know, I just didn't understand that. I felt like they took something from me, and I just couldn't find it. So I decided to just accept myself as it was, and then I began to forgive others. Forgiveness is one of the keys to healing. And I actually forgave every person I thought violated, disrespected me, didn't support me, wasn't there for me. And that's when I started to heal. I stopped holding no grudges, and I stopped living in the past. I no longer wanted to be there. I felt like I was trapped. I had a fellow sister veteran I used to talk to, and she'd be like, you are still there. I was like, well, how could I get out of there? You know, I was stuck in the desert still, and I'm still back in Michigan living, but I was still here. You know, and all those experiences still played in my head. So I really feel what was important with my progress, as I gained my progress, we have a lot of people that, a lot of times, I met a lot of women, and I encouraged them to invest in the services. I said, it don't work, write a letter, go to patient advocate, speak for yourself, be your own best friend, take care of yourself. And it committed me to serving others. I felt like, and I told God, I said, if you will heal me, I will be a vessel to help heal others, anyone that's willing to receive. So I look at it as my mission, that He preserved me. So I protect myself from negativity. You know, I've done a lot of work on myself. It was kind of hard coming out here because who you think you are? No, you got a book out, you know. I'm like, no, I'm just trying to advocate and speak my story with the truth, you know, so I had to rid myself of all those critics, but now only people I deal with are people that are ready to come out. I believe when the student is ready, the teacher shows up. When you're ready to grow and heal, you'll meet those people. Everybody's not ready. I met a lot of women veterans that are still very toxic, still blaming people, still angry, you know, but it's a personal choice. And I said, right here, I said, first you have to love yourself. And I felt like loving myself is taking care of myself. I can be a good mother for my son. I can advocate for anybody else. I can't do anything else if I'm not first giving it to myself. It's not selfish, self-preservation. And keep your ego on a short lived. You know, it's not about me being promoted in headlights. It's about me speaking life and truth to people and just being genuine. You know, can't really help anybody if you got it all together. If I just talk about all my accolades and all my special awards and how great I am, how am I really helping anybody if you're not being transparent? And so I think it's good to do that. And once you do, you kind of free yourself. You know, you free yourself to be who you are. Everybody has a unique experience. We have 7 billion people in this world. There's only one you know, so celebrate that one there. And I felt like as I went on, I started attracting what I was. I've been out here. Our organization started in 2015. I did not want to do it, to be honest. It's a lot of work. It's a whole lot of work. But I didn't see any other way. So starting the organization in 2015, I began to attract people that were ready for it. And I have this now support base. We had our first Women Veterans Conference last November 18, 2016. It was at the International Institute of Metropolitan in Detroit. And we're having a second one November 19th in Detroit at the New Michigan Veterans Foundation. I don't know if you guys know about it, but it's on Grand River. It's a Tyrone Chapman brand new facility. And they're going to build a wing for women veterans. So the doors have opened, but I did that at the first conference. First, it was the voices of women veterans to empower women veterans, to let them know you're valued, we appreciate you, thank you for your service, but give them a platform to speak. I'm only just one of thousands. You know, so many other stories that need to be told, and that's why I did the book too, in small, short form, but I just empower them to speak truth. And I tell everyone, just be kind. Be kind to people. You never know what somebody's going through. And a lot of people are like, Stephanie, we did not know. My family didn't even know all the stuff I wrote in my book. They didn't even know. And when I released it, they was like, wow. That's because I didn't really feel like I could safely release it to where it would be productive and it would be embraced and celebrated. So I think it's important. What I learned is that to be kind to people and to show love when you can. And that's why I find myself, I'll be driving down the street and I see a veteran. I see him a lot on the corner with signs saying they're homeless. I always stop. I ask them, what's going on with you? Why you out here? Do you know they have a service for here? I had a lot of guys tell me, no, I didn't know. What number? Where do I go? You would be surprised. People still don't know the first step to get into the VA system. And a lot of them, people were wrongfully discharged. We have a lot of people that if you was displayed any type of anxiety or fear or emotional problem, you got labeled as quote unquote a liability. Next thing you know, you get put out of the military with a dishonorable discharge or a personality disorder. Certain types of discharges, you cannot get VA benefits. So there were some people that actually did not do what was recorded, or they acted out because they were traumatized, but they were not able to access the VA benefits. But now they do have it now where you can go back and work on it legally. But that happened to a lot of Vietnam veterans. They were just disconnected from society, and they're just now getting their honor and their benefits after all these years. So it's kind of...
Not only Vietnam,
Yes.
but it goes earlier.
Yes.
Only it does.
Yes, I totally agree. Yes, it's true. And I think that's the problem, is the disconnect from the veteran and the administration and understanding us.
Well,
Go ahead.
the thing is that the whole thing about taking care of your veterans, in many ways it's unique to the United States because many countries don't even have anything like this.
Yes, that's true.
If you go to Britain, for example, it's sort of like, thank you for your service, thank you for the time you put in, and that's it.
Yes.
As far as what you get in there, there was nothing there. The British started in earlier in the in the 70s, they started doing things where they actually trained their people to have a job on the outside. But they also had something that we don't have, which is their people enlist at the age of 15
Really?
for a term of 9 years.
Oh, wow.
And at the end of that, they're guaranteed a trade.
Wow.
Now,
That's awesome. And that's important. See, that's fine.
but they train their people.
That's good, and that's what I'm finding out, is transferring the skills. The skill sets you may have in the military, that's the difficulty we're having too. And we're actually, our next conference, we're gonna focus on how do we take our military leadership skills and apply it to our civilian life. And that's the difficult part, was the transition. My transition was not smooth at all. They do have programs now for the younger troops, seamless transition, where they come out, I mean, they got it great. You know, they have 5 years automatically VA benefits. They got it really good, but like you said, our predecessors, they really have suffered. I honor my former and present brothers and veterans and sisters. And that's why I speak like I do, because that's the problem we have. We are human beings, and the trauma and the things we experience often we don't get what we
And
do.
how many of them have spoken
Yes,
about what they do?
yeah,
Very few.
that's true. That's true. We don't. And that's the change we want to see. And that's the platform we're trying to create, is our voices to be heard in a sense where it's really bringing awareness, but also providing solutions. Here, I'm a woman, I served, and I'm a military, I'm a veteran. I didn't identify with being a veteran. You don't, and that's one of the things about women veterans, we don't self-identify. And we were just talking about that at a meeting we had. Why? Is because of the questions you get, you know. Some of the strangest stuff you get, like, did you kill anybody? I'm like, no, not yet, but, you know, like, you know, and they're like, it's just a strange, well, what did you do over there? Oh, how was that? It's like you're just, you know, this person that they're, and you kind of like, it's really uncomfortable, and I think that's a difficult thing that we're having, is finding that honor. We have to first honor ourselves. And I think that's what it is, because most of us, we're just servants. We came to serve. We just came to lay down our lives, and we don't look at us as great heroes at all. That's what I decided to do. I think it's important to write your story. They have various several means. They got the Oral History Project, where you're going to get it filed in the Library of Congress. I just had an interview with Make the Connection. I don't know if you know what that is. Make the Connection is the VA, national VA organization, and what they're trying to do, they use veterans' voices to tell their stories, to try to advocate for other veterans to invest in VA services. Only 10% of the veteran population use a VA. Why is that? It's trust. It's trust.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I have a lot of guys tell me, I'm not going up in there, you know, whatever, and there's nothing you can do to break that, you know, so that's the division we have, because they didn't have immediate picking you up. Yes, there was no immediate intervention, and then 10 years later, I'm supposed to come back and trust you when I needed to help. Now I'm worse off. You know, I've had even the younger troops. I was in a group, there's a 25-year-old, and he was talking about how he was a top soldier and how he felt so great, and when he got injured in the military, got sent back home, and he had all these medical problems. He actually tried to commit suicide. He shot himself in the head, but he lived. And now he has like 3 plates in his brain. And he's like, I'm 25 and I can't even take care of myself. You know, so you have all those issues, and he's still living. He tried to kill himself. So you have a lot of trauma. You have a lot of issues that are unresolved. So, you know, I say, when you meet a veteran, let them divulge to you what they want. You know, really just show them a safe environment, a stable, consistent environment. Because once you get jilted, you're kind of like, well, what am I supposed to do? And a lot of these guys don't feel any hope, right? What am I going to live for? You're not listening to me. And this guy didn't even have 100% yet. He was living off the state assistance. He said, now I'm sitting here with food stamps. He said, you think I like this? And everybody was trying to calm him down. I said, you know, let him vent. He's angry. And that anger is justified, but it's what you do with that anger. And so I was angry, but I just became a workaholic. And I was just like, oh, whatever, it didn't help but it started to deal with me. And so I think, and when you write the story of your life, not tell everybody, you're the one that holds the pen. That's your life. So when I started writing my book, I did I reached out for help. I did go through a coaching program. I know if you know Jack Canfield, he did the Sleep for the Soul. I was privileged enough to be in their training coaching program for 2 years, and they really helped me launch out. I went to what they call Publicity Summit in New York, and I was standing before NBC, ABC, and all these producers, and I was telling my story, and they were like, wow, this is interesting. I didn't feel validated. I didn't think anybody wanted to hear about all my stuff. Who wants to know about all that? But actually what it did was help other people do the same thing. So that situation made me valid, so I didn't realize my voice was important. So putting it on paper and then giving it to other women veterans, that's what I feel is important, that we empower each other. If someone gives something to you, you are obligated to give to others. I think that's important too. So after I've done all this work, I'm still in therapy. I think it's important to continue therapy, to have that professional, non-biased support. Friends and family are fine, but they're not professionals. You know, professionals have a tendency to help you with a skill set and give you worksheets and things you can work on. And I think that's what people do. You kind of lean on your family, and like caregivers and spouse, we have to support them too. They are only, they're only as good as their spouse. Most veterans, some of them don't even have family members. Some of them don't even have spouses. A lot of them are disconnected. And I think we need to create that safe place for them to come, and that's what we're working on too, is building those relationships. And that's my story, just to tell you, I battled my storm within and I won, and so can you. But it's a personal choice. I was willing to face my issues. I didn't want to live beneath my privilege. I just didn't want to exist anymore. I wanted to have a healthy life. I wanted to travel. I wanted to see the world. I wanted to make a significant difference. And after all my pain and suffering and things I went through, I took all those lemons and I made some sweet lemonade, and I'm selling it. And that's why I'm here today, is actually kind of the honor, the privilege to just be alive and healthy. Even I still invest, I tell every veteran, invest in VA healthcare because you've qualified for it, to go for it. I just had major surgery. It's been 3 weeks now. I was in the hospital for 11 days. And the thing about it, I had trust issues with that because my doctor, same thing, you need referrals to certain things and whatnot. It was delayed, but I went outside and got another letter for civilian, and I got it together. But if and I feel that you understand, it's not like you're taking advantage of the systems, but you earned that. And investing in those services, you're doing yourself a disservice by not doing that. So I just basically changed my life, created this organization. We're working on putting up the first Women Veterans Community Center in Mount Morris. We're looking at a historical home, and have it restored. So we're working on that. We want to provide services to the women veterans and their families, and help them in their transition. So that's our goals, and that's why I'm here today. So thank you for listening to me. And if you have any questions or comments, I'm open to it.
Too many.
Okay. So thank you for the
I could be here
opportunity.
I could be here for the next couple of weeks at that point.
Thank you.
I have a question. I always thought that this post-traumatic syndrome on the military side was due to people being in battles, seeing their best friend die, shooting other men, being the last survivor, et cetera, et cetera. I think you dispel that. Were you in other major battles? Did you ever shoot at?
I was kind of at support. I saw, dead bodies, whatnot. We had Scud missiles and whatnot. And that's the challenge we had too, because PTSD was not associated with military sexual trauma at all. So that's the struggle we had for years, because post-traumatic stress disorder is when you have a tragedy. You could have major catastrophe, a tornado could hit you, lose all your family, or something that's tragically happening to you, and then within 6 months, if you're still struggling in those areas, it can be considered prolonged as chronic condition if you don't have immediate intervention. So no, that's what most people think, that PTSD is due, I got shot, or I lost a limb, but it really isn't. And that's what's changing now. That didn't change to 2010, actually.
Yeah, there's a lot more to it than that.
Yeah.
It could be anything that might be traumatic to you.
Yes.
And what your perception of what that might be, it might be totally different from anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
We had a house fire, and it was limited to the kitchen, and it was put out quickly. But for the next 10 days, I would close my eyes at night and see the flames. Eventually, I got over it, but that it was just a very short incident that kept
It
affecting.
was over within about 2 minutes,
Mhm.
not even that.
Yeah, car accident. Some people never get a car again. You know, will never drive again. You know, just great experience of a loss, some type of loss. Mhm. Definitely. Yeah, but it's changed. It's changed now, and it was very difficult to even file for what they call, it's a secondary condition. So based upon the military sexual trauma is experienced. So that was, but it's very difficult. And a lot of women are suffering in there. A lot of them are living in poverty. You believe phone calls I get from veterans asking for food. It's food. You know, and so it's like, well, we have to do something. And we're talking about women veterans in 50s, 60s, and 70s, and the newer ones too. It's all, you know, the whole, you know, already, you know, the wars. And that's why I was surprised by that. We all had this underlying tone where we felt like we were in an institution that really didn't, you know, guys, groups, everything the same. You know, everything, nothing special for girls there. You know, so we kind of, you know, made our way. Women have served since 1772, the Revolutionary War. We were always there. We didn't get paid, you know. You know, so things have changed a lot, and it's still some first women leaders and whatnot, and we're making great strides. But that's my goal, is to just bring awareness to our issues and provide some level of support. And our community resource center is going to do that, because a lot of times I get calls from VAs. They don't want to talk to the VA. They'll talk to me, and I'll tell them my experience, and I'll tell them, well, this is what you do. And this is what I encourage you to do. If they can identify with you, you get it, you understand, so they feel safer. So I do a lot of advocacy and intervention, you know, writing letters and speaking for people that can't speak for themselves or are too afraid to speak for themselves. A lot of them won't tell because they don't know the consequences of it. So we want to liberate women, and our brother veterans, we're there for you too, but you guys had all this stuff. Now it's our time to get a little bit of something. And I think that women, you know, we have contributed greatly to the society as a whole. We're the carriers of life. You know, we support, we nurture. But it's time for us to be honored and celebrated. And that's what we're looking to do, is to shift that, provide that platform. That's the work we're doing. We're going to have the first women veterans organic garden. We're going to be down at the farmers market event. And so we've got a lot of stuff we want to do. We're going to incorporate the youth and have them as a part of our program too. So, great work ahead.
I heard you correctly, you said something about a 5-year window after you're discharged from the service, that there are benefits. I know looking at all what kinds of benefits that would be. What would they be? And at the end of 5 years, is it just done?
Well, they're offering what they call a seamless transition program. So like the new troops, like OEIF, Operation OEF, Afghanistan vets, so they're newer vets. Basically, if they want to be a part of the VA service, they're guaranteed 5 years of medical care. So it could be mental health, whatever your issue is. If you have a medical issue, you get the medical care. They're right available. The programs are, most of the research right now is focused on that group. So the older ones like me, Desert Storm, you know, Vietnam veteran, we still, you know, we didn't get it, you know, but that's a challenge. So you would just have to contact your local VA and apply for the services. So that's just more recent, and after 5 years, it depends on if you get a service-connected rating. They have so many gray areas. You have to get a certain percentage in order to get certain benefits. It's not a clear-cut path, and you know, it really isn't. And I think the difficulty is most of them are not finding someone, a veteran service organization, or someone that's going to really tell them the truth and guide them through. So they get frustrated. So some of the benefits, you have to be just in combat set. You can get what they call the Soldiers Relief Fund, and they have another one where you can get emergency help. But if you did not serve or deployed, you don't get that benefit. Even if you're Army, Reserve, or National Guard, some benefits you don't get. So it's not a blanket coverage at all. But it's changed a lot. The VA has done a lot better. Definitely have. Yes, ma'am.
You probably obviously know Gary Sinise. Gary Sinise, he works with the vets and does a lot for the vets.
Okay.
but he never talks about women. That's,
Right.
have you associated with him at all?
I've met so many people, I mean, last few years, it's like.
He's a movie guy, you couldn't forget him.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure, yeah,
He's an actor.
He was
Okay.
Lieutenant Dan in Forrest Gump.
oh, okay, yeah. Well, you got the veteran service organizations now, VFW, DAV, you know, you have an array of them, but the millennials and the younger troops are not going to the VFWs. No, they don't want to hang out. They're, you know, technology kids. These kids grew up on Google, you know. They socially interact by, you know, chatting and texting. You know, it's just different. They're not going to come to a meeting. And some of the, when you do visit some of them, it's just like so far away from you. You talk about Vietnam vets and you talk about Iraq. It's totally different mindset, and they say the old and the new military, and they talk about how things are better than this and this. It's kind of like a real disconnect, and that's difficult to what we're doing, is that they're losing their numbers, they're losing their members. The VSOs are not growing veteran service organizations like they desire to. So they're trying to find new ways, like they just had, the VA had a Veterans Town Hall over Facebook and on phone. And there was 300 people on the phone, but you couldn't get them in the building. They don't show up. So it's just those barriers and those things you need to consider when you're dealing with the newer veterans. And then also they look and they want leadership roles. I know some that joined, but they had a problem because you have these guys that have been here 20, 30 years. You're a new kid. What do you know? So they had all this power struggle here. So a lot of them, they're not getting the numbers that they want. So that's why I think community organizations like mine that are disconnected from the VA, from the government, that are just community-based, I find them more effective. I find their guard is more down, they're talking to us, they divulge a little more, they feel safer. So I found that's been helpful. But a lot of times they don't talk about female veterans because they're not women veterans. You know, the military is what? 80, 70% in general, you know, all male-dominated culture. You know, so that's why it's important that women veterans like myself and other sister veterans that I work with, I tell them we need to tell our story every time we can. It's our duty to do that. You know, it's our obligation. We need to speak up for others to help them understand that. So how can they help us if they don't get us? You know, so instead of just being angry and frustrated and complaining, let's do something about it, something productive. And that's why I'm empowering women veterans to be leaders that they are.
I really enjoyed your talk. It's been incredibly instructive, especially looking back to World War I and II and then all the rest you talked about. But I was wondering, how much are your books and what payment do you take?
Okay, well, this book is 15 and this is 10, and I have a square.
Yeah.
So I take check, cash, or this way, so I got it all.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's, a lot of people are like, when they read it, it's on a journey. It's pretty interesting because it's not boring. It's kind of surprising because I'm opening my life up to like daily life of what a woman veteran gets to process. And then the struggle, you're trying to find your place in civilian society. I say once military, you're always military. You don't change. It's just like you're a different person and you're not quite sure what they did to you, but you're different. So you gotta try to figure it out. So I think that's the challenge we have there, is trying to articulate who we are. And we're just trying to find a place in society so we can serve again, because once you're serving, you don't really change. You always want to give back.